Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Andrew Warren, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about S&P 500 inclusion once again, because in this video, I want to specifically focus on the retail investors and possibly some of the impacts that we could see on Tesla stock this week with some of the retail investors making moves. And I know that in the past, we have been discussing a lot about just the S&P 500 purchase in itself. And then in a recent video as well, we talked about institutional investors like the index fund trackers possibly making some big purchases on the 18th near inclusion. But like I said, with this video, I really want to focus on the retail investors themselves, because up until now, the retail investors have played a huge role in Tesla stock, and in my opinion, they deserve a lot of credit for catching this stock early and buying into Tesla stock much earlier than a lot of the analysts and institutional investors in the S&P 500 did. So a big shout out to all of you out there that have purchased Tesla stock when it wasn't very popular. And even now, one could still say purchasing Tesla stock at this point in time, it's still not the most popular thing out there, because we commonly hear from Tesla bears that, oh, it's overvalued and things like that. And of course, us long-term investors, we understand why we're making these purchases, even when it's at a premium price tag. That's because we just have a much longer-term perspective than a lot of these analysts out here that are looking quarter to quarter, or the institutional investors or fund managers that are really worried about these quarter to quarter, or even just the short term in a matter of like 1 to 2 years. They have to worry about all of their clients and the uncertainty of making a decision like buying Tesla stock when it sort of is at a premium. But like I said, my point with this is Tesla is really a company and a stock that has kind of been suppressed by the media and the stock market. I think that's why we see, especially over the past 4 years out of 5, the stock basically went nowhere. There were some ups and downs here and there, but it even started to go back down in 2019. And as you can see, this past year has been absolutely crazy for the stock. And the reason that I think we've seen such a notable surge this past year is because I believe it has been suppressed a bit by the media and a lot of institutional investors. And what would seem a little bit more logical if that wasn't the case would be more like a linear move upwards, where it slowly grows to this point over this chart here over time. However, this year I have to say there's been a lot of positive news released and forward-looking news in general that has really set up Tesla for future years. And I certainly agree that Tesla is in a better position than ever at this point in time, especially thanks to that recent stock offering. That's just more money for the war chest whenever they need it. But my point here is that retail investors really picked up on this stock before it became popular among institutional investors and even analysts in the finance media. Retail investors have done a lot better job at analyzing Tesla stock than a lot of analysts out there, and that's their job. So retail investors deserve a lot of credit when it comes to Tesla stock and picking up on this one early. And that's what I really want to focus on today, because when we think about retail investors and some of the stocks that they are attracted to, Tesla is certainly that one at the top of the list, at least for me. And with us leading up to S&P 500 inclusion over this week to come until Monday on the 21st, it is likely that we could see some retail investors making some moves that will affect the stock price. Now, we don't know for sure whether that could be a huge surge upwards or whether there's going to be a lot of retail investors selling off as well. But my point is that I think a lot of retail investors will play a significant role in this movement leading up to S&P 500 inclusion. And as always, of course, I almost forgot this. Please make sure to smash that like button if you enjoy the Tesla videos. But getting right back to what I was talking about, it makes me wonder what retail investors are going to be doing with Tesla stock over this week leading up to inclusion. And like I said, I think depending on what retail investors are doing, we could see that reflection with the stock price in the sense of whether it goes up or down, or if it skyrockets, or if we have a little bit of a sell-off before inclusion. However, I think the biggest chance for the most notable sell-off during this whole time frame is probably after inclusion and the many weeks to come after that as well, if the stock continues to go downwards a little bit. However, a sell-off after S&P 500 inclusion is not guaranteed. So I'm really curious as to what's going to occur with a lot of the retail investors, whether that includes them making some big purchases over this next week or so, and also if we see some sell-offs with Tesla stock among retail investors leading up to inclusion, like around Friday or Thursday. And I'm really curious on that one as well, because even if there is a sell-off among the short-term traders and the people that are just looking for that quick money, I think that the index fund trackers and the firm managers will be there to pick up some of that stock while it's on sale if it does go down due to a significant amount of retail investors selling off, or even institutional investors selling off, which I believe the bigger likelihood of the two, whether it's institutional or retail investors selling off, I think retail investors would be more likely to sell off than some of the institutional investors, because if we think about it, a lot of the institutional investors are going to have to buy in. So that makes me question, even if we do have some short-term traders just cashing out on some quick gains, then there is the possibility of a lot of these index fund trackers and fund managers picking up those stocks that are being sold. And then on the other hand, which is really one of the main parts of this video that I wanted to discuss, is are a lot of retail investors going to be actually buying more Tesla stock as we get closer and closer to inclusion? And this is something that I really would not be surprised with. That's why I've been saying in recent videos that I think Tesla stock could hit around $700 to $800 per share. Now, call me crazy because we're around $200 off from $800, but I would not be surprised if sometime in between this time frame of now and S&P 500 inclusion, or a little bit afterwards, I would not be surprised if we get somewhere in that range of $700 to $800 per share. Now, I don't want to get the excitement up too much with that, but there is always that possibility of a buying frenzy happening among a lot of retail investors. And then if a lot of retail investors aren't selling off, maybe there's some short-term traders here and there selling off Tesla stock, but if the majority of people that have purchased Tesla stock so far are holding for the long term, are looking at that 10+ year vision, and if the majority aren't selling off, and the index fund managers have to make this purchase somewhere near Friday, and we also have S&P 500 inclusion on Monday. Now, of course, like I said, I don't know where it could go after Monday, but we're just talking about the possibility with the lead up with this week right here before Monday. If all of that plays out in that scenario, then we could be seeing this stock price actually go up significantly. But I just want to emphasize the fact that the stock price has already been up around 47% just over this past month. But even with that in consideration, like I said, I have no idea where the stock is going in the future. And anyone that tells you they know with certainty where the stock is going, they're pretty much just speculating, because if we all knew where the stock was going, then everybody would be making decisions based off of that and they would be as rich as it gets. But that's just not the case with Tesla stock and any stock in the market. But I can't help but wonder what could be happening with this week leading up to S&P 500 inclusion. And I know we do have the idea of a sell-off hovering around near inclusion, because there will be some short-term traders that are going to sell Tesla stock and make some quick money. And as I've emphasized in previous videos, I think those that are long-term investors, especially the retail investors that have that long-term vision, I think we are going to be the ones that win in the long term and make a lot more money than those who are trying to cash out for some simple short-term gains. And I've even stated that I think the S&P 500, even though they have to buy at pretty much any price that it's at when they make the purchase, I think that they're going to win much more in the long term than those investors that are short-term trading Tesla and just going for that quick money. But like I said, if there is a surge before inclusion, I think it could be a combination of a lot of retail investors buying in before inclusion, some institutional investors buying before Friday, and then we have a lot of speculation around Friday being one of the major days of institutional investors buying in, with the index fund trackers and fund managers trying to buy as close to the price that it will be purchased at on S&P 500 inclusion day, which is on Monday. So in terms of possibilities, we could see the stock price actually go up significantly if a lot of retail investors are buying in, and if they aren't selling a lot of Tesla stock in comparison to those buying, like with the fund managers and simply the other retail investors buying in. However, that's the good scenario where a lot of retail investors don't go for the quick money. But what I know with Tesla stock is that we have commonly seen in the past, after these big events occur, there is a sell-off, and I want to talk about that specifically in a separate video, but just to address it here as well, that is a possibility. As someone who has owned this stock for a while now, that's certainly not a surprise to see a lot of investors sell Tesla stock after the major event. That has been a common occurrence with the stock split, with Battery Day, and other events in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case this time, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it actually ends up differently this time around, in which there is a mandatory purchase being made with S&P 500 inclusion. And that's the major difference with previous events with Tesla stock, because in the past it has always been hype based on news and certain events and things that are happening with the company or the stock, but there was never a mandatory purchase. Never really, at least over this past year that I can think of, has there been a time where we knew that a major purchase was going to happen. Yet this time around, it's very different in the sense that it's pretty big news, but this news is based off of a mandatory purchase in which the S&P 500 will be buying Tesla stock at whatever price it is at that point in time. And with that in consideration, there could possibly be some different outcomes than what we are used to seeing with Tesla stock. Maybe there's not a big sell-off at the end, but I would not be surprised, because in terms of likelihoods, I think it's more likely that we see at least a slight sell-off after S&P 500 inclusion. And I'm stating that because that's just a common occurrence that I've seen with Tesla stock over the past year especially, but as as I stated, this is a very different scenario this time, and we've never really seen an event like this in the stock market, and I think that's why everyone is speculating so much and are excited about this event occurring, and just this week in general, and even what happens next week after inclusion and on inclusion day itself. So as always, of course, please make sure to smash that like button if you all enjoyed this video. Nothing too crazy, just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on that as we got closer to this Monday, which is the start of this huge week ahead. And regardless of whatever happens with Tesla stock over the next couple of weeks to come, it's going to be entertaining regardless. At least it won't be boring. Whether we see the stock skyrocket upwards or if it goes down and we have a big sell-off, it's at least going to be interesting. And this is something that we could look back on and reference for future stock market events, because I think this will go down in history as one of the more notable stock market moments. And as always, of course, feel free to check out my referral links in the description below if you'd like to get some free stocks. With Robinhood, you can get a free stock. You can still get 4 free stocks in total with Webull if you haven't signed up already. You can get 2 free stocks valued up to $250 for signing up with my referral link, and then another 2 valued up to $1,600 for depositing $100 into your Webull account. And you should be able to take that $100 right back out after you get your free stocks. That's what I did, and it worked for me, and it also helps support the channel, which I really appreciate. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend.